My name is Carter Hayes. I'm 41 years old. I live in a quiet town in North Carolina, and for most of my adult life, I built homes for other people, families, couples, even retirees trying to settle down. I'd walk them through the blueprints, pour the concrete with my own hands, and watch their eyes light up when they finally stepped inside. But I never imagined that one day I'd be standing outside my own house, the one I built with my wife from scratch, watching her move into it with another man. She called him her soulmate. They didn't see me that day. I was parked across the street, behind the line of oak trees I planted myself. She had no idea I was watching. No idea I'd already changed the deed. That house wasn't hers anymore. It never really was. Let me back up. I met Rachel when we were both in our late 20s. I was a project lead for a mid-sized construction company, and she worked in real estate. She was confident, smart, funny. The kind of woman who made you feel like the most important person in the room when she looked at you. We hit it off fast. Dated for a year, got married in less than 2. No games. No drama. Or so I thought. For 10 years, we were what people called a power couple. She handled the clients, I handled the builds. We even joked about starting our own firm together someday. We shared everything, meals, calendars, passwords. I trusted her more than I trusted anyone. I didn't know it back then, but somewhere along the way, I stopped being her partner and became her placeholder. And the craziest part? She didn't leave me for a rich guy, or a young model, or someone she met on a dating app. No. She left me for her best friend. A man I'd shaken hands with, had beers with, let stay at our place during a rough patch in his life. She moved in with him 3 weeks after telling me she needed space. 3 weeks. And by then, they had already signed a lease. The only problem? That lease was worthless, because I had already changed the deed before they ever signed it. This is the story of how I watched my wife betray everything we built, and how I took it all back without ever raising my voice. When I think back to those first few years with Rachel, it honestly felt like a dream. We didn't just fall in love, we built it, brick by brick, like one of my projects. Late-night takeout dinners while sitting on moving boxes. Dancing in the kitchen while unpacking. Driving out to see open lots just for fun. We both loved the idea of building a life, not just financially, but physically. She used to say, "We're not just building homes for other people, Carter. We're practicing for ours." I believed her. Every word. We bought a small plot of land just outside town, nothing fancy. 5 acres, overgrown with weeds, but it had a creek running along the back and a wide clearing that caught the sunset just right. I remember standing there with her the day we closed, her hand wrapped around my arm. She looked up at me and whispered, "This is where we grow old." God. I held on to that moment like it was gospel. Every day after work, I'd drive out to that land and just stare at it. I sketched out rough floor plans, took measurements, mapped out where the windows would face. Rachel would show up with iced coffee, sit beside me on a fold-out chair, and tell me all about the colors she wanted in the kitchen. Navy blue cabinets, white marble countertops, a rustic backsplash. We saved every penny. I took extra projects on weekends. She worked double shifts showing listings across town. And after 4 years, we finally broke ground. I built it myself. Every nail. Every frame. Every damn shingle. I'd come home exhausted, covered in sawdust, and she'd wrap her arms around me and say, "You're building our forever." We moved in the spring after our 9th anniversary. The trees were blooming, and she cried when she saw the swing I hung on the back porch. "For future grandkids," I'd said, and she laughed. It was beautiful. People envied us. Not because we had money or status, but because we worked for what we had. We were the couple who showed up together at BBQs, brought matching lawn chairs, laughed at dumb inside jokes. She always had her hand in mine. Always introduced me with that proud, glowing look in her eyes. And I loved her. With everything I had. But then, little cracks started to show. At first, I didn't think much of it. She started coming home later than usual. Said there were news showings, clients from out of town, urgent meetings. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I knew how the real estate world worked. It was flexible, chaotic, unpredictable. She'd leave her phone in the bedroom more often. Face down. Silent. Her laughter changed too. Not the tone, but the timing. She started laughing at things I wasn't saying. At texts she wouldn't show me. At private jokes I wasn't part of. And slowly, she started saying things like, "We've grown into different people. We don't spend time the way we used to. We should try some space, just for a while." Still, I didn't panic. I thought it was just a phase. A rut. Every couple hits those. I offered to take her away for a weekend. Just us, no work, no phones. She said she'd think about it. She never brought it up again. Then came him. Ethan. Her best friend since college. I'd known him casually for years. He'd pop up randomly. Christmas cards, old Facebook tags, a few random game nights. I never saw him as a threat. He was harmless. Or so I thought. Around that time, Ethan moved back to town after a bad breakup. I remember Rachel telling me we should invite him over more, help him feel less alone. So we did. Dinner here, lunch there. They started running errands together. She told me, "He's just trying to get back on his feet. He needs a friend." And I believed her. God help me. I believed her. Even when I saw them sitting a little too close. Even when she smiled at her phone and said, "It's just Ethan." Even when she started sleeping facing the other side of the bed. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was overthinking. That I was too tired to see things clearly. But I wasn't imagining it. Something real was happening, right under my nose. And she wasn't even hiding it well. That's the thing about trust. It doesn't shatter like glass. It decays, like wood eaten from the inside, until one day, it just caves in under your feet. And when it did, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, and quietly started connecting the dots. Because deep down, I already knew. After that, everything felt off. Rachel still smiled. Still talked about weekend plans. Still poured my coffee in the morning. But it wasn't the same. Her eyes would flick to her phone every few seconds. She stopped laughing at my jokes. And that warm, casual way she used to touch me, on the shoulder, the back of my neck, was gone. Gone like it never existed. One night, I walked into the kitchen, and she was on the phone. She didn't hear me come in. She was speaking softly, laughing that same laugh I hadn't heard in months. But the second I opened the fridge, she stiffened and ended the call like someone had just caught her stealing. I didn't say anything. Just looked at her. And she said, "It was Ethan. He's still struggling, you know?" I nodded. And I started paying attention. Over the next few days, I became someone else. I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse her. I observed. Silently. Like a man waiting for termites to bring down a house he didn't know was hollow. Her text notifications vanished. Her phone had a new passcode. She turned location sharing off. Accidentally, she said. She started going to the gym late at night. Rachel had never gone to the gym before. She started doing her hair more, even when she said she was just going to the grocery store. And one evening, I caught a name on her car's Bluetooth history. E. Not Ethan. Just E. A nickname, maybe? Something new? I don't know why, but that little detail hit me harder than everything else. It was the effort to hide, the attempt to cover her tracks. Because if she wasn't guilty, why was she erasing herself from my view? Still, I said nothing. Instead, I started documenting. Receipts, call logs, car mileage. I checked our shared bank account. There were ATM withdrawals in places she never told me she'd been. Gas stations 40 minutes out of town. Restaurants we never went to. I created a folder on my laptop, hidden under a fake project file. I labeled it Foundation Repair. Because the life I thought I had? It was cracking beneath me. The final straw didn't come loudly. It came at 2:07 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong, like a pressure on my chest that wouldn't let me breathe. I got out of bed and went to the kitchen for water. On the way back, I noticed her phone, still charging on the hallway table, screen facing up. It lit up. One message. From Ethan. Just 3 words. Lease is ready. I froze. Lease? For what? We owned our home. We didn't rent. I unlocked her phone. The passcode was her birth year reversed. I'd guessed it in one try. My hands were shaking. Inside her messages, I found the thread. She had been emailing back and forth with a leasing agency. Ethan's name was on the documents. So was hers. The address? Our address. The one I built with my own hands. The lease started in 2 weeks. And I wasn't part of it. She hadn't just replaced me. She was trying to erase me. Rachel planned to move him into the house. My house. While I was still in it. While I was still married to her. That moment changed everything. Not because I found out she was cheating. I'd already accepted that deep down. But because I realized how cold she had become. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were still. My face was calm. But something inside me snapped. Not in a wild, angry way. Not the way people scream or punch walls. No. It was quiet. It was precise. It was like hearing a switch flip inside your soul. And that night, I made a decision. I didn't wake her. I didn't cry. I just sat at the kitchen table in silence. And started planning. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, watching the minutes tick by on the oven clock, listening to the silence of my own house. Our house. The one she was now planning to hand over to another man like I never existed. She had no idea I'd seen the lease. No idea I'd gone through her phone. No idea the man she thought was too passive to fight back had just woken up. I didn't feel anger, not in the way most people imagine it. I didn't want to scream or throw things or demand answers. I felt empty. But in that emptiness, a strange clarity formed. I knew I couldn't save the marriage. That ship had sailed. No, been torched and sunk behind my back. But I could save something else. My dignity. My future. And the home I built with my bare hands. By 5 a.m., I had a plan in motion. The sun wasn't even up yet, and I was already on my laptop pulling up property records. The house was in both our names, but the land? The 5-acre plot we bought years ago? It was in mine. Sole ownership. Transferred to me by my father before we ever got married. I'd added her name to the house deed, sure, but not the land beneath it. A small detail I'd never thought would matter, until now. And that's when it hit me. If I couldn't stop her from trying to take the house, maybe I could take the ground it stood on. By noon, I'd spoken to a lawyer. Discreetly, quietly. I told him everything, showed him the documents, the lease emails, the text messages. He looked over the land title, nodded slowly, and said, "She can't lease what she doesn't own." That was all I needed to hear. For the next 3 days, I moved like a ghost in my own life. I still kissed her goodbye in the morning. Still asked about her day. Still played the part of the oblivious, tired husband. Meanwhile, I was working behind the scenes. I had the deed revised. The house and the land separated. I filed paperwork to revoke her claim over the property. I contacted the leasing office she'd been working with and, as the legal landowner, filed a formal objection against the lease. The look on the agent's face when I walked into their office in person. Priceless. "You're Carter Hayes?" "Yes. And unless you want to be complicit in a fraudulent lease, I suggest you hold off on letting anyone sign anything." They froze. Backed off immediately. The lease wasn't valid anymore. Not without land ownership. Not without me. The final moment, the real snap, came 5 days later. Rachel walked into the kitchen, humming to herself, phone in hand. I asked casually, "Anything exciting today?" She smiled. "Just some errands. Nothing big." She was dressed nicer than usual. Hair curled. Light makeup. I recognized the same perfume she used to wear on our anniversaries. She left around 11. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. Sure enough, she wasn't running errands. She drove straight to Ethan's apartment. I parked half a block away and watched as they hugged in the parking lot, kissed, and got into one car. Then, they drove to my house. They walked around the property like buyers inspecting a place before move-in. She pointed at the porch. He nodded. They stood on the back deck talking, laughing, dreaming. That's when it fully landed. She really thought it was hers. She really thought I'd just let it go. But I had already taken it back. Legally. Quietly. Completely. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I just smiled to myself, turned the key in my ignition, and drove off. Because for the first time in weeks, I was done waiting. I didn't cry that night. I started planning my next move. And I knew exactly when to strike. I wasn't out for blood. I wasn't even out for revenge. Not in the traditional sense. What I wanted was truth. Cold. Public. Undeniable. I wanted Rachel and Ethan to know, without a shadow of doubt, that I knew everything. And that I hadn't sat by and accepted it. I had outplayed them. Silently, I started with the lawyer. Mr. Rowland was sharp. Late 50s. The kind of guy who read contracts like novels and enjoyed every paragraph. I sat across from him at his office downtown, files spread out. He looked at me over his glasses and said, "They think they're leasing your home? They're 2 weeks out from moving in." I replied. "Good," he said, leaning back. "Then we have time to burn their fantasy to the ground, legally." That was music to my ears. We took the house out of joint tenancy, filed land ownership disputes, initiated a freeze on any transfer or lease without full legal consent from both named owners and the landholder, which was me. Rachel had no idea. While she was shopping for his and hers furniture, I was filing paperwork. While she was texting Ethan about living together like we dreamed, I was working with a forensic accountant to trace misused funds. Turns out, she withdrawn over $11,000 from our joint account in the last 4 months. Cash. Claimed it was for home repairs. But there were no receipts. No contracts. Nothing. I started tracking her movements. Used an AirTag in the lining of her gym bag. She never even noticed. Every time she said she was at spin class or getting groceries, I had real-time proof she was at Ethan's. Every time she said she was running late from work, she was in a hotel 14 minutes from downtown. I documented it all. Screenshots, videos, GPS logs, everything labeled and time-stamped in a secure folder. I wasn't building a case to confront her. I was building a wall to trap her, one she'd never climb out of. A week before the move-in date, I visited Ethan. Yes, I did. Calm as a breeze. He answered the door shirtless, confused. "Carter? Mind if I come in?" He looked behind him nervously, probably thinking Rachel was nearby. "She's not here," I said. "Relax." I stepped in, looked around. Typical bachelor mess. Some photos of him hiking. Guitar in the corner. No sign of her yet. Then I handed him an envelope. Inside, a copy of the legal dispute filed against the property. A cease and desist letter warning him against attempting to take residence in a property undergoing legal transition. He skimmed it. His face turned pale. "I don't know what she told you," I said quietly, "but she doesn't own what she promised you. And if you show up on that land after this date," I pointed at the letter, "you'll be trespassing." I left before he could respond. Because this wasn't a debate. It was a warning. Back home, Rachel was making dinner. I acted normal. Kissed her cheek. Asked about her day. She smiled and said, "I'm planning something big for us soon. Just wait." I almost laughed. Oh, I was waiting. And what she didn't know was, the entire plan she thought she was pulling off? I was already 3 steps ahead. 2 days before move-in, she got the first shock. A letter from our mortgage company arrived. Inside was a legal notification that a land use restriction had been placed on the property, pending an ownership dispute. She read it twice. I watched her from the living room as her fingers trembled. She didn't mention it to me. She just set the paper down slowly and walked into the kitchen. That same evening, I found her whispering furiously on the phone. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to feel the pressure. The walls were closing in, and she knew something was wrong, but not what. Then came the audit. Our bank had frozen our joint account due to irregular large cash withdrawals. I had filed a report through my lawyer, claiming financial abuse and misappropriation. She stormed into the room. "Did you mess with the account?" I looked up, feigning surprise. "What?" "Our cards declined. The account's frozen." "Really?" I replied. "That's strange. I'll call them in the morning." She stared at me. For the first time in months. She didn't know what I was thinking. And that terrified her more than any argument would have. The night before the move, she left the house to go see a friend. She was gone until midnight. I didn't follow her this time. I didn't have to. I was preparing something far better. That night, I printed the entire lease email chain she had with the agency. Highlighted her signature. Her promises. Her lies. I placed the papers neatly in a binder. And on top, A simple note. You tried to build a future on a lie, but you forgot I own the ground you stand on. Then I went to bed, slept peacefully, for the first time in a long time, because the next day, she was going to wake up in a house she didn't own, beside a man who didn't know what hit him, in a life built on stolen trust. And all of it was about to collapse. Morning broke with a soft overcast. The kind of day that feels like something's about to go wrong. I woke up before Rachel, sat on the edge of the bed, listened to her breathe. She had no idea today was the day everything came undone. At 9:17 a.m., the first knock came. Rachel was in the bathroom, doing her makeup when I opened the door. A man in a navy blazer stood holding a clipboard. "Mr. Hayes? That's me. I'm here to serve official notice. You're expected in civil court at 1 p.m. today." I took the envelope, nodded politely, and shut the door. Behind me, Rachel peeked around the corner. "What was that?" "Mail." I didn't even blink. By noon, she was in full panic. Ethan had texted her. "What did you do?" "I just got hit with a cease and desist. My employer got a notice too. I could lose my job." "What's happening?" She kept pacing. I could hear her breathing hard. She finally asked, "Carter, did you do something with the lease?" I looked up from my coffee. Calm. Level. "I did everything necessary to protect what's mine." Her eyes widened like she saw a ghost. 1 p.m. sharp. Civil Courtroom 6B. I walked in with Mr. Rowland, my lawyer. Calm. Confident. Everything filed, everything prepared. Rachel sat 2 rows behind me, alone. Ethan didn't show. He was smart enough to know when he was in over his head. The judge reviewed the filings. Took less than 15 minutes. The land under the home was solely mine. The house lease had been executed under false pretenses. The $11,000 in missing joint funds? Subpoenaed bank records made it impossible for her to explain. Then came the audio file. A month ago, I'd recorded her during one of her late-night calls. In it, she said, "Carter's clueless. He thinks we're just for decorating. Ethan and I will have the place to ourselves in 2 weeks. And then I'll tell him, if I bother telling him at all." I watched Rachel as her own words echoed through the courtroom speakers. The color drained from her face. She stared at the table. Silent. Broken. Humiliated. The judge cleared her throat. "Given the deceptive actions outlined, this court orders the immediate invalidation of the property lease. Additionally, all funds withdrawn from the joint account must be returned within 30 days. Ms. Hayes is hereby restricted from entering or occupying the property until this matter is formally resolved. Any violation will be treated as trespassing." I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Just nodded once. On the way out, Rachel tried to catch my arm. "Carter, wait, please. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I turned, looked her right in the eyes. "You didn't think I'd fight back. That was your mistake." Then I walked away. Back home, I found her key on the counter. No note. No explanation. By evening, her clothes were gone. The drawers empty. Her perfume gone from the bathroom. It was just me now. I stepped out onto the porch. For the first time in months. The air felt clean. The silence felt peaceful. I looked out at the yard I'd mowed every weekend for years. The swing set I'd built myself. The home I'd nearly lost. And I smiled. Because this time, I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't thrown a punch. I hadn't chased or begged or cried. I had simply outmaneuvered her. like a soldier, like a strategist, like a man who knew his worth. Ethan never contacted me again. Last I heard, he lost his promotion, moved out of state, left her hanging. She tried calling a few times. I didn't pick up. You don't owe closure to people who tried to destroy you. Justice isn't loud. It doesn't always look like payback. Sometimes, it looks like peace. Like waking up alone, but free. Like standing on land they tried to take, knowing you still own every inch of it. It's been 13 months since that day in court. I live alone now. But it doesn't feel empty. It feels honest. It feels like peace. The kind of peace you don't buy. You earn it, after walking through fire and refusing to let it burn your soul. I won't lie to you. For a while, I questioned everything. Not just Rachel, but myself. How did I not see it sooner? How could I have let her get so close, so deep, into my life, my mind, my future? But over time, I realized something. People don't always fool you because you're stupid. Sometimes they fool you because you love them without a backup plan. And that's not a weakness. That's something rare. I rebuilt slowly. Started working with a non-profit for veterans dealing with betrayal and PTSD. Started journaling. Picked up boxing again. Not to fight. Just to sweat. To breathe. To feel like me. I kept the house. Not because I needed the space, but because it reminded me of a truth I almost forgot. You don't let people who broke your heart take your home too. That land? That house? That life? It was always mine. A few months ago, I ran into someone at the coffee shop. She was kind. Smart. Didn't ask me about the past too soon. Didn't try to fix me. Just smiled. We talk now. Nothing serious yet. But different. Because now, I love with my eyes open. With my ears sharp. And with one truth stitched into every decision I make. If someone asks you to shrink to fit their fantasy, they're not your future. To the man or woman watching this right now. Maybe you're in the middle of your own storm. Maybe you just found the messages. Maybe the silence is screaming louder than any fight ever did. Listen to me. You don't have to destroy them. Just don't let them destroy you. You don't need revenge that burns everything down. Sometimes, the best revenge is survival. Silence. Grace under pressure. Rebuilding what they thought they buried. She took everything she thought mattered. The money, the plans, the future. But she left behind the only thing that really counted. Me. And I built a new life from that. Not for her. Not even for revenge. For me. Headphone. Soft emotional fade-out music begins here in your video. So if you're standing in the ashes right now, breathe. Stand up. You're still holding the most powerful thing they never saw coming. Yourself. And that's enough. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, share it. Comment below. Or just remember, sometimes, walking away with your soul intact is the win they never expected. Bell subscribe for more true, emotional, justice-driven stories every week.